I want every time that I post my ideal customer, a founder, a chief revenue officer, a head of sales, to get value from it. And like that's my metric for success is thinking, will that person get value from it? And hopefully I shoot 100% on that. I don't know if I do, but that's my goal every time. And I think that's another thing that holds people back is they're like, I have to get 50 likes, or it's like, who cares? Like stop focusing on that. Like if your ideal customer profile, your ICP is finding value from it, shoot it, put it out there. The worst thing that happens is nobody reads it.
Welcome to the road to greatness. Get ready to be inspired and empowered to take your career to the next level. Let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Carlin Kiefer, and welcome to the Road to Greatness, Season 2. All right, so this means we have more experts, more people who are great at what they do, willing to share their path with you. Hopefully, you'll be able to take something away, apply it to your own circumstances and sets, and help you get to your own great destination. One of the things that came out of Season 1, you may recall, is that every single interview talked about mental agility, emotional agility, and resilience. All three are necessary components to becoming actually great at what you do. So, what does that look like? Well, it's different for everyone. And that's why we're interviewing as many experts as we can find to be able to share their version with you. If something resonates with you, please click like. If you want to hear more, please hit subscribe. And if you feel like you know someone who could probably benefit from a few extra tips and tricks, share. And with that, we're going to go to the road to greatness. Let's talk about it. Hello and welcome back to the Road to Greatness. I'm your host, Carlin Kiefer. And because we are kicking off Q4 of 2024, rhyming, I thought it was absolutely perfect to have the lead generation guru, master, genius person come and share with you all of the tips and tricks of generating leads in social media, but also share his path to greatness, because after just 10 short months in business, he's already approaching becoming $1 million business. And so I know you want to do that too. And so whether you are establishing yourself as a thought leader, increasing your presence online, looking to get on the radar of recruiters, a lot of layoffs happened over the last quarter. So if you're looking to get back on the scene, then you should listen to literally every single word. So with that, I would like to introduce you to Harris Fanaroff. Harris, thank you very much for joining. You are from Linked Revenue, and I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks so much, Carla. I'm really excited to be here, having my trainer, my old trainer, my first trainer, old, not obviously in old, but old in how good you are. And I'm excited to be here. And thank you for having me.
All right, well, I'm going to try really hard not to take offense to the old part, although I did figure out that when I was your trainer, you were the same age as my now 25-year-old daughter. So I'm a little like feeling aged and whatever, but it's fine. I'm going to get over it. That's what therapy is for. Okay, so let's hop into it. You started your career, your life after school began down the professional sports route. And recently I talked about the importance of having a sports background. If you're going to be in sales, then really a lot of the characteristics mirror each other for sports. So talk to me about how you went from a pathway to pro baseball to now an entrepreneur running Linked Revenue and approaching your $1 million mark.
Yeah, I appreciate the question. I do have like a hypothesis that quote failed athletes make really good entrepreneurs, and I would put myself in that bucket, and not in a negative way, but in a way that I think is true. A little bit of background on me: growing up, baseball was really my whole life, and how I basically thought about myself from an identity perspective, and it was everything. In sixth grade, I decided I'm going to do everything in my power to play Division I baseball. That was my goal. Ended up committing junior year to play Division I baseball, so hit that goal. Was drafted out of high school to professional baseball. Ended up playing in college, but not being drafted out of college baseball. Got something called the Yips, which I'm happy to go into and talk more about. It's something that comes up all the time. Didn't get drafted. Got my first job out of college, working in the same organization as you, where I got to learn from the best sales trainer there is, Carlin Kiefer. Wasn't Carlin Kiefer at the time, but Carlin. Uh,
Carlin Lothery at the time, for those who don't remember, or those who remember me that way. Yes.
exactly. So that was my first job, making a ton of calls, a ton of emails, trying to figure out how to get out of the rat race in a way. In a world where most people didn't make it, I was lucky to have some success, thanks to your training once again. But really, like what I kind of realized throughout that experience was that I didn't want to spend my whole life calling CFOs, chief nursing officers, and praying that they would answer and take a meeting around my technology that I was working on. That led me to working with an executive coach that really did change my life. And I really do believe that. I don't think I'd be on this path, but we really worked through like that failure, quote, failure in college athletics and what that would lead me to and what I wanted kind of my legacy to be. And we, through that process, it was entrepreneurship. And there were three failed businesses along the way to get to where I am now. Happy to go into more detail around those, but basically always wanted to start my own business. I tried many times. This fourth one is having 100 times more success than the first three combined. And I'm grateful to have found something that there's a need for and that I'm super passionate about.
That's so fantastic. And folks, I did not pay him to heap praise upon me. So just so you know, that was not my intent. But he's right. No kidding. At any rate, let's get into a couple things. So one of the things in the Road to Greatness, and certainly in season one, we covered a lot, was the importance of agility. And so both an athlete is looking for agility on the field or court or whatever sport you play, but it's the mental agility, the ability to pivot, the ability to change course, change path, as they work through things, so that they are in fact falling forward, right, and getting the next step forward, even if it was, okay, this one didn't work, but I can move forward. Talk to me about, how do you perceive yourself with your mental agility now?
I think it's something that I have gotten better with over the years and wasn't good at in the beginning, to be honest. But I do think the more you fail, the more likely you are to end up succeeding. But it's hard to think of that when you're in the moment. Quote, failing three times as an entrepreneur is the only reason I think that I'm having success right now. Without trying to sell three different times and having failure through that, I don't think this one has success. Like I've brought learnings from all of those into this one. And I think that's why this is having success. And it's really hard when you're in failure one, failure two, and failure three to think like this is going to end up benefiting me. But that's the reality. Like sitting in a place of like some success right now, and I haven't by any means fully made it, and I'm still learning and I'm still failing every day. But
We all are.
I've learned from those three quote failures. And I think even like the baseball quote failure has helped me to get to where I am today. I think failures like push you. It's like one of the things I learned through those coaching sessions was like I had quote a baseball failure, but how do I make business a success? How do I make my career? How do I make my life a success? And it wasn't a failure. And like we worked through that, but like that I think pushes me every day from like an entrepreneurship perspective. That's why I like sort of believe that like failed athletes are like really good entrepreneurs because you like still have that burning failure inside of you that's like I'm gonna do anything it takes. I'm gonna make that 50th call. I'm gonna wash that person's car so they become a client. Like, and that's whatever it takes, we will do. And that's like our mentality and model in linked revenue. And I think that comes from like a need to succeed that you get from being in athletics and as an entrepreneur, it's like whatever it takes, we're going to do.
Yeah. And you and I have talked about the fact that the actor Denzel Washington has a quote that he delivered at a commencement address, and he talked about fall forward. And it's about the fact that Reggie Jackson had set the record for the most number of strikeouts in his professional baseball career. But you don't really pay attention to that and think about that because he's in the Hall of Fame for all of the home runs, right? For all of the hits that he had. Same thing, Thomas Edison had, more than 1,000 failures and failed experiments, or excuse me, failed inventions. And then he failed forward because everybody does. I mean, no one knows about all the failed ones. They know about the one that worked, which was the light bulb. And, and here we are sitting in the light. So the falling forward piece sounds like it's very true for you. And I want to go back to something you actually said in terms of both your philosophy for linked revenue and you mentioned washing a car so that someone becomes a client. You recently talked about having listening for value, and that's one of the things with Pro Tip Partners. We really do focus on making sure that the account executive or the sales rep is really focusing on what is of value to the customer. And one of the thoughts was, back when I was doing media training more often, there were the number of executives that I had at the end of our training session say, "Hey, so you think you could work with my kid on their college interviews?"
Yeah.
And it was like, absolutely. And it, different rate, different thing, different style, different content. But that's what's of value to this customer to make them want to come back, right? And to make them do. And so you're not really creeping too far, but you are in fact doing what's valuable to your customer. Talk to me about how you are positioning the value for your customers with linked revenue. And actually, before we even get started with that, describe what you do for them, and then what's the value they get from that.
Yeah, I love that. We're very aligned with that. We were going back and forth on LinkedIn about this the other day, and we're just clearly aligned on this. And it might hurt me, and I'm where we do things that aren't within our scope, and I don't care, quite frankly. And if anybody on my team doesn't have that mentality, they're not going to be on the team very long, because that's just what I believe in. I think that's the only way you build real partnerships and like people who love working with you. We do three things at Linked Revenue, and I would never call us a ghostwriting agency, because that's not all we do, and people sometimes get that confused. We do three things. We help leaders generate thought leadership. We help them grow and nurture their network. And we're a business development strategy, and a big aspect is execute on it. I am passionate about hating the term, and that hate's a strong word, but like strategy consultant. Like, I don't ever want to just tell somebody what to do in business development. It's like, no, we're actually going to do what it is that we recommend. I've had people pitch me and be like, yeah, I'm your strategy consultant. I'm like, I don't want a strategy consultant. Like, telling me what to do is so unbelievably unhelpful. Unless you're going to do it, then I want to partner with you. And so we are like relentless about actually doing. So like, you say the content, we write it up for you. You tell us who you want to connect with, we do it for you. You tell us what your business development strategy is, and we execute on it. Like, all of these things we do. I'm not here to tell people what it is that I think they should do, at least for like our clients and who we work with. Like, we are here to do it for you, because the people that we work with don't have time. Like, they are founders, they're chief revenue officer, they're head of sales. They don't have time, but they know that they're missing out from like LinkedIn in those three different buckets. And so that's where we help. That's the role that we play.
So it's interesting, though, as much as you say, here's what we do when we do this, one thing I find most interesting is that you give free tips on LinkedIn all the time.
Yeah.
And I take all of them, by the way. But you give information away, which for so many people, they can't fathom. Why are you giving tips away? Then I'm just going to go do it, but then you're going to charge somebody else, and you're not cheap to do it. Talk to me about that difference.
Yeah, I give away 99.99% of what we do. Everything that I'm posting about, we are doing. Talk is fine. You can go to YouTube, you can go to LinkedIn, you can go to Twitter and get talk. Like, we do it for busy people who don't have the time to do it. Like, and that's our business, and I'm good giving everything away. I don't think, honestly, people will reach out to me until they, like, cold new people, until they've been following me for like 3, 6, 9 months and getting value for that long. And then they're like, every time I show up on Harris's profile or his post comes up, I'm getting value. Let me see what Harris is about. Like, that's our mentality. That's our model. That's what I do. And that's what I do for our clients. It's like, just hammer your audience with value and good things will happen. There's nothing to steal. Ideas are free. Like, people can, quote, steal my idea. I've had people steal my post. I don't care, because at the end of the day, they're not going to outlast me, which I think is like another big aspect. Like, if I continue and keep doing this for the long run, someone's going to try and copy stuff for a week or two. They're going to burn out. And so everything that I learn, I'm sharing and hoping that, like, every time somebody comes to my profile or they click on my name and see what I'm posting, they're getting value. Like, that's what I hope with every single post. And that's what we help executives do. You provide enough value, good things will happen. I like believe in, one of my mentors says this, like, play long-term games with long-term people. And that's like what we're about. And that's what I'm about. And that's what I preach to all of our clients and internal team members as well.
And folks, just so you know, Harris has not made any outbound sales calls. And if you remember from what I've said, he's almost $1 million business in 10 months. Let that sink in. No outbound sales calls. First of all, how does that feel?
Incredible, because outbound can be brutal. I've done a
Brutal.
lot of outbound in my life. It's not fun hearing no constantly. It is way more fun having people send you a message saying, tell me more about what you do, than it is saying, hey, you should learn about my lead gen system. It just doesn't work. I mean, in my opinion, it just doesn't work. Provide value, provide value, provide value. People will come to you. The tough part is you have to be willing to provide value for 6+ months. I mean, like, point blank, that is the problem. That is what most people don't realize. They're like, I tried posting a couple times. Nothing happened. Yeah, you do anything for a week, 2 weeks, a month, nothing's going to happen. You have to be like ruthlessly consistent with it and provide value, and good things will happen. Most people aren't willing to do it for the long haul. That's like something that we've noticed.
Another thing I've noticed actually in your posts is that you put tips out there without it sounding salesy. It's not followed up with, let me know if I can help you, or call me, or DM me. It's just, here's a tip. Do what you will.
Valuable and thank you for picking up on that, because it is a big part of my strategy and what I recommend. For nobody wants to do business with a desperate person. Like, my motto is just like, provide value, provide value, provide value, continue to provide more value. And then, like, 1 out of every 15 posts be like, by the way, here's what I do. In case it's of interest, here's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
But 14 out of those 15 are just like value add posts. And I want, every time that I post, my ideal customer, a founder, a chief revenue officer, a head of sales, to get value from it. And like, that's my metric for success, is thinking, will that person get value from it? And hopefully I shoot 100% on that. I don't know if I do, but that's my goal every time. And I think that's another thing that holds people back, is they're like, I have to get 50 likes, or it's like, who cares? Like stop focusing on that. Like, if your ideal customer profile, your ICP, is finding value from it, shoot it, put it out there. The worst thing that happens is nobody reads it. Like, truly, that's the worst thing that happens.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I'm constantly like telling people and trying to get out there.
So as you're thinking about your ideal customer profile, and which a lot of people think, well, I just want business, right? That's not an ideal customer profile. So how did you pick I'm going for the C-suite, I'm going for the top level executives? One, I know that most of the other folks can't afford you, but you're going for C-suite. You stick to that. And so you're not, from the mission creep perspective or what have you, or even profile creep, you're not, oh, well, I'll do it for you at this price, but I'll do it for you at this other higher price. How are you really, one, being clear, two, sticking to it, and three, how should other salespeople be thinking about nailing down their ideal customer profile?
It's a great question. And I think it's iterated over time. I've been selling for like 10+ years in different ways. So I've been able to like figure out, honestly, like, who I enjoy working with as well. Business becomes a lot easier when the company is paying for it. Like,
So true.
Like 100 times easier. I see my friends that have started businesses and they're like targeting like independent coaches. I'm like, getting an individual to swipe their own credit card is really, 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 really hard. It's possible. Don't get me wrong. People have built amazing businesses doing it. It's not the game I like to play. I like the company is paying for it. I just think it's a better game to play. You still have to provide value 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But I've sold to individuals, sold to companies. I like the company route a lot more. It's easier to like prove ROI. They're easier to work with, everything along those lines. And it's been people who are like attracted to what I'm doing. Like, our client looks like the founder of a 20 or 50 or 100 person company that is an obsessive relationship builder or networker. And they know that they need to do more and be better for it and want to be a thought leader and want to do innovative new things in business development, but don't have the time to do it. And they want like a partner who can help them do it. There's a lot of content writers, ghost writing agencies with an 18-year-old in wherever, and it's just like it's not a business development partner. That's like somebody who can sort of write maybe around what you do. We're like a business development partner for them in a way that's value add and not salesy. I mean, like I really appreciate and love that you said that, because that's something that like I'm relentless about for me and also for my clients. Like if you come across as desperate, nobody's ever gonna be interested. And it's really hard to do when you sort of are desperate. And that's like sort of my problem with newer sellers. Like I do some like training where I'll partner with the chief revenue officer and I'm like, hey, can you help my younger sellers, like my SDRs or BDRs? And it's really tough because they're also like, hey, you got to get revenue super soon. And it's like, you're just going to cause them to be what we all hate to see on LinkedIn, which is like, hey, buy my services. It's like, nobody's ever going to respond to that, ever. Like you have to give them a longer runway, let them play the long game. Otherwise, you're just setting them up for failure.
So huge. All right, we're going to take a break for a moment. And when we come back, I will ask Harris about his top 3 pro tips for how to leverage LinkedIn or how to craft those really important posts. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
What is Pro Tip Partners?
Pro Tip Partners is here because there are a lot of small, fast-growing businesses who want to focus entirely on growth and at the same time recognize that they may not have the talent development resources already in-house. Pro Tip Partners is here to be that extra training arm that you need, but aren't really interested or don't have the resources to focus on full-time.
What does improv have to do with sales?
So first and foremost, I'm not teaching people to be funny. What it is about the mental agility. If you think about improv and you've ever been to an improv show, one of the things you'll pick up from all the performers in that show is that they are all active listeners. They are dot connectors. They can take something they heard 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes ago and connect it to something that they want to say and do right now in the moment. They can tie other pieces together. They can go with the flow when someone says, hey, come here, and they pull you in and you have no idea what you're about to do together, but you're there for it. You're ready to try. That's how you want your sales team to act. That's how you want team presentations to go. You want everyone to be ready to be on board and seem like a seamless unit together. And the improv skills are what help refine that.
Pro Tip Partners. How can we help you develop your team?
Okay, so we're back. And Harris, right before the break, we talked about we were going to get you to give us your top 3 pro tips. What are some of the things? We've talked a lot about your philosophy and mentality around it. Give us 3 things. I know I've got one of my favorites, so if you don't bring it up, I'm going to add it at the end. But what are 3 things, types of posts or things you should be trying to do in the post that you're doing?
All right, I got like 100, but I'll break it down to my 3 favorite that people, I guess, that are a little bit more out of the box. And I want to hear the one that you're going to say as well. The first one I would say is never try to sell in the first message. You want to stick out from 98% of people on LinkedIn, don't try to sell in the first message. And so someone would say, okay, what should I do in the first message? Your first message should be about providing value and figuring out something that your prospect will care about. Ideally, they've posted something and you can say let's say they posted 5 qualities of a leader. I'm just making this up. You could say, hey, I just heard Carlin's awesome podcast where she talked to X, Y, and Z about leadership. Go to minute 20. I think you'd find it really interesting. It's related to what you just posted about. Value add at the person, what they care about. Never mentions, hey, you should buy insurance from me. Hey, you should buy blah, blah, blah. It's so focused on them. It's not a sale. So that would be number 1, would be never, 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 never sell in the first message. And I don't know.
So should I sell in the first message?
I didn't know if that was enough nevers. Number 2, what I would say, I'm giving some out of the box ones, but this is good. I tell this stuff all the time. I'm an executives LinkedIn's all the time, all day. Nobody is sending video messages. Just quick, casual. Hey, Carlin, loved what you shared about blah, blah, blah. I'm actually going to be in New York. I have some ideas around what you can do and blah, blah, blah. Let me know if you're around. I'd love to get together, grab coffee. Coffee's on me. Face to camera, build a human connection, human relationship. Everybody's sending spammy sales messages. They're using AI. It's terrible. Try a video message. I guarantee if your success rate is 0.0001% with a spammy AI sales message, you're going to be at 1 to 5%, which is just going to increase your ability to build more relationships and have more success. So that's number 2. Try the video message. You have to be connected with them and it has to be on your phone, but highly, highly recommend it. The third recommendation that I would give would be, it's kind of related to number 1, but I like this one too. Let's say you're targeting CHROs, Chief Human Resource Officers, for what it is that you sell. And that person 2 weeks ago said they're hiring for a head of learning and development. Instead of trying to sell them your employee benefits, whatever, think of somebody in your network that would be a really good connection point for them around what they're hiring for. Your goal is to take that person from very, very cold to wanting to have some type of conversation or connection with you. If you focus on what it is that you sell and your product, and you taught this to me with them, like what's in it for me, what's in it for that person. If it is cold, it has to be so laser focused on what they care about. And your goal on LinkedIn is to, and this is ironic because I run a LinkedIn agency, but your goal on LinkedIn is not to sell. It's to take somebody from very, very cold to like a little bit warmer so they want to meet you in person or have a conversation with you. And then 6 months, 12 months, 6 years down the road, once you've built that relationship on trust, they're going to buy from you. Like that's what it's about. You'll separate yourself from everybody else on LinkedIn who's sending spammy messages, just trying to get a quick sell. That doesn't happen. It doesn't work. And so it's like, focus on them and what they care about. So those would be, I could go on forever about this. Those are my 3. What is yours? And did I hit it? Because I don't know if I did, because those are relatively out of the box.
You did not. The one that's my favorite is to follow your human. So follow the contacts that you're actually trying to meet. You don't need to LinkedIn message them. You don't need to get all up in their inbox or anything else. Follow them, watch what their posts are, and comment in a meaningful way. So don't just like it. Don't just say, great point, congratulations, whatever. Add some thought, add some either even an opposing thought or a complementary thought, a similar thought, whatever, to add on to their point. But stay away from trying to both sell or do something that's fluffy, like, hey, I was here.
Yeah. So, and people, the follow-up, I love it. The follow-up to that, people would be like, Carlin, what does a good comment look like? Go to August 15th on my post and check what Carlin did to me. I know it wasn't a sales thing, but like it was an unbelievably great comment, very personalized, exactly what was going on. She showed exactly what to do in that. So August 15th, check my post on that day, check Carlin's comment, because that's always the next question. Like, what does a good comment look like? Your comment on that day is exactly what I would tell people to do. And I give presentations. I might actually showcase that one as like, here's what I would recommend you do.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And again, not paying you for this, but it's good. But it is. But that, like I said, that is my favorite thing. So when we have some folks who are selling to a variety of industries, and I know you support a number of industries in your client base. Let's just say they're selling to financial services or maybe fintech, health tech, everything still fits in the tech space, but healthcare is obviously very different than finance. How are they supposed to, is it Monday, Tuesday, I'm posting something that finance would be interested in, and then is it Wednesday, Thursday, I'm posting something that health tech is interested in? Or is it keep it as generic as possible so that both are actually interested in all your posts?
My recommendation would be to pick one, focus on it for 3 months, see what type of traction and interest you get. So connect with them. Don't send them a sales message. But if you're targeting fintech, just connect with all the fintech CEOs or CHROs or CTOs, whoever you're going after, and focus on fintech content for 3 months or 6 months. see how much that resonates. If you're like, hey, I'm getting nothing, pivot to health tech, connect with health tech CTOs, CIOs, CEOs, and see what that resonates. There's a big focus on like the more you can niche down in LinkedIn, the better you're going to do. You want to become known as like the person on one specific thing, especially early on. Like you can always kind of get bigger from there. For example, like if you're an insurance person, don't just be the insurance person on LinkedIn. There's a billion insurance people on LinkedIn. Be the insurance person who focuses on D&O for Web3 crypto and Bitcoin companies. Like that's what you want to be, so that your buddy from 10 years ago who you haven't talked to has a friend that they're golfing with, and they're like, oh, do you know anybody in this space? And they're like, yeah, I see John Smith posting all the time about this. He'd be great. Let me connect you guys. That's what you're hoping to do. And like being active on LinkedIn increases your surface area for luck. It's like something that I talk about a lot. If you're never posting, people aren't thinking about you. Just point, like, they're just not. We just don't.
Out of
But
sight,
if
out
like,
of mind.
yeah, but if I'm like constantly seeing Carlin providing value every once a week, I'm going to think of Carlin when I need a fractional chief learning officer. Like I'm just going to do that when otherwise I wouldn't think of you. And this just increases your ability to like, quote, get lucky from a sales perspective. When you think about all the different channels of phone, email, in-person, and social, and really social being LinkedIn for B2B, like it's the only one that works while you sleep. Like people can see your posts while you sleep. They're not going to get, I mean, they're not going to get an email from you. They're not going to get a phone call, and you're not going to meet them in person while you sleep. Like this one is working for you all the time. You just have to trust and do it long enough, which is what most people can't do. I mean, just honestly, won't do and can't do.
So you mentioned that if you go for something and you work on something for 3 months, then you want to be able to, if it's not working, be able to pivot to something else. But as you said, you have to give it time. You can't just say, oh, a week, nothing meaningful happens within a week. So as you're looking at the pivot, what do you do to help yourself move from one thing to the next? How do you not have, and my negotiation expert, Josh Weiss, said on a previous episode, he talked about not having that freak out moment because things aren't going the way you envisioned them or planned, and you had this one mindset. How are you staying in that pivot mindset so you can just say, oh, this one didn't work, next one?
It's hard. And I think especially for like entrepreneurs, it's really hard because most of us have shiny object syndrome, and we're like, oh wow, that's interesting, let me go over there. It's really challenging. I probably stuck with business number 3 for too long, but there's also like power in doing something for a long period of time. So it's like mixing those two is a challenge. I haven't answered you, but I'll answer you with like a story. I had been doing like about business number 3. I had been doing new hire onboarding. Well, I tried building a software. I tried to do it in a cost conscious way, and it was terrible. I had a couple companies testing it out, and I'm like, this software is terrible. But I had kind of sunk some money into it and thought that there was something there. And I had then pivoted to, okay, I'm going to do some consulting around this. And it probably did 50 plus conversations with prospects. And I kept hearing like, we don't care enough about our people to invest in onboarding. And 2, we're not hiring. And number 1 is not exactly what they were saying, but it was behind the scenes what they were really saying. Mm-hmm. And so 50 plus calls led me to like, this might be a pretty hard business to do. Mm-hmm. And I was actually relatively lucky in that I had been building on social for 3 years. And one of my onboarding clients was like, the onboarding stuff's cool and all. Like, I'm probably going to drop that. But like, you're really active on LinkedIn. Tell me how you do it. And he was a CEO of a 200-person company. I'm like, here's what I do. He's like, I don't have time and capacity to do that, but it's actually a huge priority for me to be more active there. Will you do it? And so I got lucky in a way that he came to me about the business. But should I have done that 6 months ago? Probably. But why I didn't is because like I know that there's value in doing something for the long run. And most entrepreneurs do have shiny object syndrome. So like there was probably like ideas around the LinkedIn that it came before, but I just kind of ignored them because I want to do something for length. So it is, I don't think I'm answering you. I'm mostly confirming that it's like a hard concept of like length of time doing something versus shiny object syndrome. And how do you know when you're onto the thing versus like when to pivot. It's a challenge. I'd be curious, actually. I'm going to throw the question back on you. How do you know when to do it and when you're on the right path?
For me, and I too had a business that took, I don't call it a failure because I eventually got it to a good state, probably 15 years ago. And I'd gotten to a point where I was ready to give up, but then I finally somehow, after 2.5 years of just slug, just making mistake after mistake after mistake, I finally then got a groove, finally got something that worked and thought, oh, okay, this is doing it for me. I think for me, had I not, and I think 2 or 3 years is probably, I stayed with that too long, to your point.
Yeah.
And maybe I could have done something sooner, but I think for me, it's when you get the pit in your stomach, you don't see light anywhere. You don't see that there is a way to get out of this hole that you're in. And a true assessment, right? You can't just have things aren't going well today, right? You have to have did I try everything? Did I talk to everybody? Did I ask for all the help that I needed? Did I do this, that, and the other? The other thing that I will say that is a partner to that is also, are you okay with accepting that you need help, right? Because for some people, there's the shame factor of, I can't let anybody know that it didn't work. You have to be willing to do the work. So if you aren't willing to change up and let somebody else who's already been there, done that, help you get there, then it's time to give it up because you're just not willing to do the 100%.
Yeah, it's such a good point. And I guess what I would also add is like in the beginning, I did this for free for like 3 months, like for a bunch of different people to just like build up case studies and examples. And I did do that. And did that suck a little bit? Yeah, of course. Like spending a lot of time for something that you don't know if there's going to be a payout sucks. But it goes back to the mentality we talked about first. Like, you want me to wash your car? What do you want us to do? We'll do it. And early on, we really, and I really did that because it's like, you got to find a way to make this work. I mean, entrepreneurship is not easy.
For the faint at heart.
Yeah, it's not easy. And even having some success that I'm having now, like there's some days that I'm like, oh my God, like crazy. And it's like, but this is what I chose. And so when I start, I don't know if you can curse, but like bitching about it,
Okay.
it's like Harris, you chose this, you decided this. So stop doing that, put on your big boy pants and deal with it. And I think that's an important part of entrepreneurship too. Like if you're not willing to have a ton of failure, don't go into entrepreneurship. Just don't go work for a company. Just don't do it. It's a part of the process. I'm going to have 100,000 more failures along the way with this business, and you just have to be okay with that. Otherwise, you just don't have a shot.
Yeah, I'll second that and just say and add to that to say, I think the same can be true for sales. Because and salespeople need to figure out, is this actually the right space and place for me? Because you're going to hear a lot more no's than you get yes. And I actually just had a former sales leader a former colleague actually asked me, how is it going and what's your percentage? And I said, well, right now, because it's still early in pro tip partner world, right now I'm at about 40%. And he says, oh my God, it's amazing. Because you hear no so much.
Yeah.
And part of that is, for a different conversation on another day. But yeah, if you aren't comfortable with no, if you aren't comfortable with getting a punch in the face on, yeah, you didn't land it right this time, then both sales, entrepreneurship aren't the right places. And then fun fact, time to pivot to something that actually is. But I will say, I'm thinking even about Roger Federer, and I don't know why I watched so many recordings of college graduations and commencements, but Roger Federer also did a thing about, and I'm going to make up the numbers because I don't remember all the numbers he gave, but let's just say he plays 10,000 points in a tennis match and he loses. Roger Federer, mind you, the number one tennis player for almost a decade in the world. And he said, I lose 53% of all the points that I play. He just happens to string the right ones together to win all the matches and win as many matches or more matches than most. But he said, but the difference between winning and losing is the winner gets back up one more time, right? And you play each point. And if you're playing 10,000 points, and if you are in sales and you're making 100 calls, one can't stop you.
Right.
Right. And if you're making 10,000 points or hitting 10,000 points, one bad point can't mess with you for the rest of the match.
Right.
So those are the pieces that definitely want to get you back in. And that's one of the things when we do, the improv workshops or the improv elements that we work into our workshops, it helps you actually let go of the last thing and move to the next thing because it changes and moves so quickly.
Right.
And allows you to let go of the last moment so you can focus on the next one.
Yeah. And it's a huge aspect. I mean, like if you're in sales and or entrepreneur, you better get used to also being at the 1 yard line and people being like, hey, just kidding. Our budget got slashed.
Or we got a new CFO.
Yeah. Like anyone in sales has probably heard that 100+ times.
Yes.
And you can't let that get down on you. It's like, okay, who's the next one? What can I, and like, that's one of the reasons why I love selling on like social and LinkedIn. It's like, I want to plant 10,000 seeds over my career and who knows when one will bloom. I don't know. My goal is that at some point over the next 40 years, something good will happen with planting a ton of seeds. And every time I put out content, it's a potential seed that resonates with one person and they're talking to somebody else. And it's like, who knows where that will go?
Mm-hmm.
That's my whole goal. That's what I'm focused on.
Fantastic. All right. So we covered your top three tips. I gave you my fourth in terms of tips you can do for someone who is just sticking their toe in. And you post, I believe, when I get up in the morning and sadly, I look at LinkedIn almost first thing. But I do see that you post usually, or a lot of times you're at 7:30 in the morning or sometime in the early morning. I see a post from you. And it's almost every day, if not every day. Sometimes I get up later than that. So what if somebody's new, they've never done it, it's not something, and it's intimidating as all heck to come up with new content every single day. This is how you get started. This is step one.
I post every day at 8:31. Just that's like what I do for 5 days a week. I take off Saturdays and Sundays because I do have a 1.5-year-old and an awesome wife, and I try to be present on weekends for them. Do I work on weekends sometimes? Like everybody, sometimes I do, but I really do try to be present. But I do during the week post every day. As far as like what I recommend, most people overcomplicate creating content. And so I have 3 things that I recommend when people are like, what should my content be? And this is what mine is, even after doing this for 3+ years and posting every day, is bucket 1 is a conversation from the day before where I said something and the prospect and or client was like, that's interesting. I'm with that. I didn't know that before, and I found that really interesting. I see their head nodding. It's something that I say, and they're like, that's interesting. Because I know that if I post that more publicly, at least one person will find it interesting because one person in that conversation found it interesting. So I say, hey, if it's interesting for them, that's bucket 1. That's always my favorite. Bucket 2 is something that someone said to me that I found really interesting that I want to share more broadly. And if I found it interesting, other people are going to find it interesting. It's kind of my thought process. So like something that someone said to me where I'm like, that's a pretty cool idea, or like a best practice or something that I never thought about before. Let me share that more broadly. Like I shared one recently about like a B2B seller that goes door to door. And he told me about this and I'm like, that's interesting, but like, here's how I would take it to the next level. And so like, he shared something interesting with me. I had an extra added part. He's like, I love that. I'm like, cool. That's another piece of content. So that's the second bucket. The third bucket would be a book or podcast that you listen to or HBR article. And what most people will do, they'll be like, here's the HBR article, go check it out. That's useless. Please don't do that. Think about what resonates with you from that article. 5 steps for developing self-awareness. Let's say that's the article. Make it about you and your journey. Nobody wants to just read 5 things about developing self-awareness. That's not interesting. Let me learn about what how that journey is for Carlin, how that journey is for John, how that journey is for Harry. Like, make it about you, and you can be like, hey, this came from this article, but like, if ChatGPT or AI could write it, don't post it because nobody wants to read that. What is your unique take on that specific thing? Those are the three like content pillars and content ideas that I recommend for people.
Excellent. Let's go to the last one you mentioned in terms of making it personal for you. And I've been seeing, and apparently everybody's following you, because I've been seeing a lot more people posting pictures of kids going back to school. They're doing more. It's becoming almost like the Facebook +1. So you don't see dinner, you don't see the party night, but you're seeing more of people's personal lives on LinkedIn. Your thoughts on that? Is that too personal?
It comes up all the time. It comes up all the time when I talk to prospects. What I will say is personal type content is getting more eyeballs than otherwise. I think because in a world where it's really easy to have ChatGPT write a generic post. And so like what is unique, I think is really important. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions and thoughts on this. I've gotten messages where people are like, take this off, like this isn't Facebook. And I'm like, cool, sorry, please unfollow me. I don't care. With that being said, I do try to 80%, I try to do business, 20% I try to do personal. And the ironic part is like when I see people in real life, they're like, hey, I love that post that you shared about your grandma and how she was the first one to believe in you from an entrepreneurship perspective. Or like, thanks for being real about the struggles that you're having as a dad and an entrepreneur. They're not like, that's the stuff that people remember. And at the end of the day, like people buy from people. And again, if your goal is like to connect as a human being, that's the type of stuff I think that you should and can post. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion of what they want to share, but like I love and I encourage my clients to be personal in ways that like are somewhat business related. Like I post a lot about being a dad and an entrepreneur, or like I post a lot about my grandma. I do every so often, I'm not gonna lie, like throw out things that have nothing to do with business, but like I don't know, I've gotten enough reaction from people that are like, I like that stuff that I keep doing it. I'm sure it rubs some people the wrong way, but like
you said, get off, stop following me.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it comes up all the time. And I do think LinkedIn is becoming more and more personal than it was 3 years ago. And I think that's a good thing. Like,
agreed. Because we're all working from home. Well, not we're all working from home, but people are working from home so much more than they were pre-COVID.
right.
And so the lives are blending. You're seeing the dogs in the background, the kids in the background, whoever's sitting at home, you have your setup. I see your family in the background picture. I've got my wall of fame behind me and, and looking at the people I've met and what have you. So I think letting the two bleed a little bit more makes sense, just given where we are.
One other thing I'll just say on that is I talk all the time to entrepreneurs, founders, chief revenue officers that are like, hey, Harris, I want you to handle our company page and get us some leads there. Good luck. It's not going to happen. Nobody's ever going to see a piece of content from your company page and be like, oh, I can't wait to talk to that company. Just never going to happen. You can post once a month to prove that you're alive from the company page, share something exciting. But like at the end of the day, people buy from people. They want to have conversations with people.
Right.
That comes up all the time. And I get it. Like the value that they care about is the company value. But like you sell enough from you personally, you set up enough good conversations, partnerships, your company's going to be pretty good. If you're going to focus on one or the other, please focus on you as the human being, the leader of the organization, and stop sharing stuff from your company page that nobody cares about. That sounds rude and crass, but it just comes
totally
up
right
all the time in my
all the time. All right, so we are coming close to the end of our time together. So I will ask you what I ask everybody else, which is there anything I did not ask that I should have?
I think my overall philosophy, I didn't talk through on this, but if you wouldn't, I'm here to try to make LinkedIn better. If you wouldn't do something to somebody in person, don't do it on LinkedIn. If you wouldn't come up to somebody and just pitch slap them on your product and services, please don't do it on LinkedIn. The funny thing is 98% of people, that's what they're doing because it's easy, because you can press a button and do it. You're also never going to have success when you do that. Never. It doesn't work. Stop trying to send 10,000 messages and pray that one person responds. I hate that way of business development. It's horrible. Build genuine relationships, provide value for the other person, which is what Carlin taught me. What is in it? What is in it for them? If you do that and do it for the long period of time, good things will happen. You just have to be willing to be others focused and do it for 6 months. And I promise you good things will happen. But both of those are hard. The easy route is to try it for a week, pitch slap 10,000 people and pray that somebody responds. You're just never going to have success doing that. That's my final parting message around LinkedIn.
And my final add to my vocabulary will now be pitch slap. I love that so much. Don't just pitch slap. So I'm adding that to my
use it.
my
I
tips.
didn't make it up. I can't remember where I first heard it, but I love it and I use it all. Go check your LinkedIn messages. Everybody's pitch slapping you.
So true, so true. All right, Harris Fanaroff, thank you so much for your time and for your tips. So many good things that you have mentioned, and hopefully some of our sales folks listening will be able to incorporate that into, and our executives will be able to incorporate that into their LinkedIn experience and online experience. So again, thank you so much for your time today. It was really fantastic to interview you.
Thanks for having me, Carl. I really enjoyed it.
Did you hear something you liked? Tell me about it at Carlin RTG Podcast on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. Thanks for joining.